G'day everyone, I'm Dave and thanks for spending some time with me talking about AI of all things. Well, it's very confusing. I must admit it's very, very confusing. As you know, I post videos on YouTube and I also watch a lot of videos on YouTube. So what I try and do is present my argument about where AI sits and what solutions are available and everything else, right? So there is still an amazing amount of pushback and polarization between AI, the adoption of AI, and more importantly, the understanding of what AI does. To be honest, I think most people's impression of what AI is GPT. ChatGPT, the first time that people started the conversation asking questions to a machine. And depending on the way you prompt them, the response that you got, at what stage of the journey you use ChatGPT will start to formulate your feedback. But in general, it's pretty well established that ChatGPT was the very first one that opened people's mind to AI, and that's the one that they're basing their understanding on. Now, a couple of things have happened which are very interesting. Okay, so let's just take this back to basics. So in today's talk, I basically want to cover what's happening now, juxtapose that with what happened 25 years ago and the parallels, which are quite interesting, and then show a current working example and solution. So stick around to the end if you're interested. But let's start now. So at the moment, the big topics are, number one is everybody who's been paying money to try and get their business on Google or any other form of search paid ads are suffering massively, in particular Google. So there's a lot around at the moment about how Google are now changing their presentation, because a lot of people still use Google, but also they're now transitioning to large language models like Perplexity, OpenAI, Claude, Gemini. These are becoming the norm. So I think that is an established principle. That trend line will continue and people will still use Google, and Google will just work the answers in different ways, right? So that's going to change. The second thing that's going to change is the way we interact. It will be voice and AI assistants and AI agents that we ask our things to. That is being established now, okay? The next thing is, how do we practically respond to that with these changes? What systems do we put in place? What do we take advantage of? So, for example, the market's changing, and I can use an example from way back in the year 2000 to back up my argument, but the market has changed, the way we deliver the information has changed. Let's take advantage of it. So we have a disadvantage of AI because we're getting so much AI, what they call AI brain rot on the web now, with so many things created. In fact, this week, the top ranking sites in YouTube are all AI created sites. There's a site that gets 30 million views per post, and it's basically a retro 1980s music site that uses AI to create interesting characters. So AI is here, and you work it out, right? So Google own YouTube. So Google is saying, hey, let's use VO3 to make more shorts for YouTube. So basically you've got to pay to use VO3 to create the YouTube clips that then puts content on YouTube that they get money out of, even though they pay you a cent. So this goes back to the original Google environment, where Google created this ecosystem within itself. So a lot of people get confused about the internet. The internet is not just Google, or not just YouTube, or not just Bing, or not just anywhere. It is a collection where information is stored. Google and all these other services just take that information and rehash it and present it. They've created their own micro environment where you basically, if people are using that environment, you pay them money to get ranked on that environment. But that is now shifted and changed because the algorithm that AI is interested in is the truth, as I keep banging on about, and conversation. So let's stop me talking for a minute and we'll go down and we'll start to have a look. Now, the first video that I want to show you and share with you is by Matthew Prince, who is the CEO of Cloudflare. Now, you may have never heard of Cloudflare, but if you've ever searched a page on the internet, the chances are the website that you're looking at is running through Cloudflare or being protected by Cloudflare. It is a very, very big company. So let's have a quick listen to what he's got to say on the topic of content, which is what I'm creating now, and how all your content for your brand or your business is now being totally changed by the way we search. So we'll go down and have a quick look at what he's got to say.
Almost 30 years ago, two graduate students at Stanford University, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, began working on a research project they called Backrub. That, of course, was the project that resulted in Google. but also something more. It created the business model for the web. The deal that Google made with content creators was simple. Let us copy your content for search and we'll send you traffic. You, as a content creator, could then derive value from that traffic in one of three ways: running ads against it, selling subscriptions for it, or just getting the pleasure of knowing that someone was consuming your stuff. Google facilitated all of this. Search generated traffic. They acquired DoubleClick and built AdSense to help content creators serve ads, and acquired Urchin to launch Google Analytics and to let you measure just who is viewing your content at any given moment in time. For nearly 30 years, that relationship was what defined the web and allowed it to flourish. But that relationship is changing. For the first time in its history, the number of searches run on Google is declining. What's taking its place? AI. If you're like me, you've been amazed at the new AI systems that have launched over the last 2 years and find yourself turning to them to answer questions that in the past you may have looked to Google. While it's still early, it seems clear that the interface of the future of the web will look more like ChatGPT than a Spartan search box and 10 blue links. Google itself has changed. While 10 years ago they presented a list of links and said that success was getting you off their site as quickly as possible, today they've added an answer box and more recently AI overviews, which answer users' questions without them having to leave google.com. With the answer box, they reported that 75% of queries were answered without users leaving Google. With the more recent launch of AI overviews, it's even higher. While Google's users may like that, it's hurting content creators. Google still copies creators' content, but over the last 10 years, because of these changes to the UI of search, it's gotten almost 10 times more difficult for a content creator to get the same volume of traffic. That means it's 10 times more difficult to generate value from ads, subscriptions, or the ego of knowing someone cares about what you created. And that's the good news. It's even worse with today's AI tools. With OpenAI, it's 750 times more difficult to get traffic than it was with the Google of old. With Anthropic, it's 30,000 times more difficult. The reason is simple. Increasingly, we aren't consuming originals, we're consuming derivatives. The problem is whether you create content to sell ads, sell subscriptions, or just know that people value what you've created, an AI-driven web doesn't reward content creators the way the old search-driven web did.
Okay, those 2 points are crucial, right? That, again, backs up my argument. If you are just throwing money, let's say you invented a snake oil product or some product you wanted to make a quick buck out of, right? You would just create a website, create a social media campaign, run tons and tons of ads, and basically that's how the model would work. But the problem is now, if you're a legitimate brand, a legitimate company, and you know about your product and you love your business, you are now struggling to get that message out. What information? The information on the web is all over the place. It is just insane. I sit and watch it and I scratch my head, right? So what I did is I created a solution. I sat down and created a solution, and that's what I want to talk about. But based on what everybody is saying, you still can't disregard Google, but you need to have the conversation about your product. So the LLMs in that 30,000 and 700 will pick up some part of your conversation in the answer. Now, if you're lucky enough and you've got enough conversation out there and the AI establishes that you are an authority in this subject, and I will present this as a recommendation, you are in a very good position. But that's not going to happen just by running ads or paying Google or whatever. So this is why you need to have the conversation out there. Now, we're automating the way we do that. We're using AI against AI, but we're using AI in a clever way. Now, the fact we're using AI intelligence to process the answers, we still have control over the conversation, we still have control over the knowledge base and the content. It's very, very simple formula. Basically, you have your brand, your company information in the knowledge file. The AI assistant, instead of a human answering the question, is being trained like you would answer the question and automates the process. So it's not about AI taking someone's job. No one wants to sit there and answer hundreds and thousands of questions. That's boring. Why not automate it? But you don't want to automate it so it's meaningless. That is the next big thing. You need to have the intent of what you're talking about. Now, I believe that in the past, there's been a lot put on SEO, getting ranked by blog posts about general in nature, about general things. Now, with conversations about your business, they're more specific. People say, how do I purchase this product? How do I return this product? Where do I buy this from? What does it do? How does it work? Can I put the bolt in here? Right? So all these conversations are legitimate conversations about your business. In the past, there is no way you would pay someone to sit and answer all those questions. Now you can. But it then creates content, which is not just boring blog content, it's actually content. Now, so let's go back to step one. Step one, we have the internet, we know it's changing. Step two, the standby of Google is no longer working. Step three, we know that voice and AI agents, and we're coming into an agentic web. Right, we know all that. What do? We need some solutions. Okay, so you start going looking on YouTube for solutions. And you find all sorts of complicated solutions. Mine's probably up there with it as well, but I think mine's simple. So let's just have another quick look. I came across this video, which was only released a couple of days ago. This is just typical of what's out there and what people are saying and some of the solutions and the general vibe.
Okay, so we all know that traditional SEO is basically dead now, and AI search is where everything is happening. Instead of optimizing for these blue links, we now have to be visible in AI searches, in ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and all the others. And even in Google, you can now see the AI summaries taking over. I've been scaling startups with SEO strategies for 15 years now, and for this video I have spent weeks figuring out what works for AI searches and how to be visible there. So I'm going to give you the winning strategy that works right now, of course.
Okay, so that's good. All right, we've got onto someone, 15 years, marketing experience. She knows, she can see the trend because it's as obvious as the nose on your face of what's been happening, and it's all in the commentary. So let's see what their solution is.
It's going to be changing. I'm also going to give you the right prompts that you can use to generate blog content that help you come up in AI searches organically. And in the end, I'm also going to show you how you can automate this all using Airtable and Make.com, so you can have hundreds of topics that are related to your business and which are also targeting those AI search best practices. And you can...
Okay, totally missed the boat, right? SEO, keywords, look at the amount of words that are written there about, it's like an old database style. Oh, I asked this question, answer that question, and a blog post, right? That's not going to cut it anymore, right? People need to know about your business. Now, that is, good on her, she's doing a good job, whatever, but it just goes to show that the automation side, she's on the right track, but the actual what you're automating and how you're automating with this convoluting, high complicated system, there's all sorts out there. There's lots of out-of-the-box software. Make's a good one, that's fine. You can create your own workflows, but it still doesn't answer the key issue. The key issue is you have a business, you want to promote your business, and conversation that will be picked up by the large language models and Google, right, as I've proven, is the way to go. So now we've got that, I want to just run over some of what I've been doing just to back up my argument again. So we'll go back down here. Now, as we know, 25 years ago, at the start of the internet, it was a very different world, as we know. And back then, we'll just go down here, a bit of a blast from the past. Back then, I started the I registered Sydney2000Australia.com and started a website for accommodation for the Sydney Olympics. And this is what website, believe it or not, this was very, very cutting edge in the year 2000. So 25 years ago, web design was in demand, big time, okay? Everyone wanted and needed a website. And by registering a domain name, like Sydney2000Australia.com, having a website that had relative information, look how simple the graphics were. It worked effectively very, very well. We got lots and lots of traffic to this website. Other sites that spun off, this is what websites used to look like way back in the day. I designed these sites, so yeah, this is how far the technology's come. This was it. Many Hats Web Designs, that's my business. Okay, so there's one for Sydney by Sale, still going today. Very, very big company, prominent company in Sydney. Shout out to Matt. Yeah, so, and then if we go back here and we're just, I don't know, Fits for Farm. So these are the sort of things. So people were knocking the door down to get websites done because it was a new era. And if we have a look at where we were there to where we are now, we know it's a completely different ballgame. So jumping forward now, let's go and have a look at Sutherland Sally, right? Sutherland Sally is the site for Sutherlandshire. And again, it's based on conversation. This is my product that I've got set up so you can control the conversation. Now, this is a huge site. There are 4,000 questions being asked. There are about 600 pages that are actually out there. If we then go and we say, okay, you've got this, how do people find this stuff, all right? So you've created the tool. The tool is you uploading information, whether it's Sutherlandshire, your business because you sell boots or whatever you do. You create the AI assistant using our AI framework. You put up your knowledge files, then you train the knowledge files very simply by just typing what you wanted to say. There's no typing exact phrases. The AI, we're using the intelligence to get the very good answers. Those answers are then sanitized, reproduced, and printed out onto the internet for everyone to find in conversational form. Okay, so does it work? Next question, let's have a look. So, Sutherland Sally is an AI assistant for the Sutherland Shire. Fairly straightforward. She's only been around for about 4 months, right? 4 months ago, she didn't exist. So let's have a look. If I was to go to Google and just type in Sutherland Shire AI assistants, well, surprise, surprise, here's some videos of me talking about it, and it mentions Sutherland Sally, British Carpets, Sutherland Sally, all right? So she is there on a Google search if you are going and to answer that. Let's go to the LLM and have a look at the difference. Sutherland Shire AI assistants. Okay, the Sutherland Shire features several AI assistants tailored for both communities. Sutherland Sally, local AI assistant, provides 24/7 support, local information for residents and visitors. Stay up to date. Sally is accessible online and offers real-time conversation, such as pizza places. She features real voice interface, making her feel more approachable and engaging. And then it talks about some other, there's Sutherland Sally there, okay? So, residents in businesses in Sutherland Shire can benefit both from local AI like Sutherland Sally for community engagement and professional virtual assistants, right? So, that answer links to the site, it tells us what's going on, so we know that this strategy is actually going to work. And if we also then have a look at some of the other sites I showed previously with Phuket, Thailand, we can see it's still being indexed on Google. There's a date, 19th of the 6th. This was indexed on the 28th of June. Okay, so it's still going up and up and up. This was after the Great Decoupling event and the new algorithms. So the conversation works fantastic now. There we go, it's still going up. That's for Gulf Thailand. It's given on the 28th. And we'll have a look at Cadillac, which is the other one we've been using examples for, right? So we can see that the conversation that is being created by the assistant, right? And if we can see also the output, so what happens with Sutherland Sally, you can see there, someone's asked a question, we've got the answer, we've got the images, we've got the answers there. So, Sutherland Sally is a free service. It's an AI assistant. So the value product when they go there is they get an AI assistant to ask questions about the Sutherland Shire. When you put an AI assistant on your business, on your website, you then do exactly the same thing. It's an AI assistant, so practically it's answering the questions and creating the conversation about your business, and you can capitalize on that as well. Goes back to what the lady was saying about automating blogs. Forget blogs. These aren't general blogs. These are talking about your business. That's what the AI is interested in. It doesn't want to know how to make a cake. It knows how to make a cake. It wants to know what cake you sell. And does it answer the question for the person that asked that wants to buy a cake? Okay? So, own the conversation. This video basically tried to cover, I say tried because hopefully it did, tried to cover the fact that we know that there's a shift in the way we're going to interact with machines. We know there's a huge upset at the moment in the SEO market, so you really seriously need to look at how you're going to get found on these LLMs. And like I said, OpenAI, ChatGPT, how are you going to get there? Right? You can't just rely on Google to get there. You still want to rank in Google, and this product ranks in Google when you actually engage in conversation about your business. It's not complicated. It's very, very simple. So hopefully I've enlightened you a little bit more as to where we sit. There's so much bullshit out there on the internet, it's just crazy, right? Now, you could say I'm adding to that, but I'm not. I'm actually backing up my arguments. I've sat down, I've invented a product, I've been around for a long time, and I think it's a good time just to let people know how this all works. So that's my aim. If you're interested, feel free to contact me. I am more than happy to talk to you about AI and if my solution suits you. So there's a shameless plug for my own product, but hopefully you're raising some understanding in the videos that I do, you find some value. Okay, well, hopefully you do, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for tuning in.